Hi, I'm here to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, um, which is a film that is quite long. I do really like it though, and I do like it significantly more than the theatrical cut. And even though I think the theatrical cut is solid enough, entertaining enough, I feel like Zack Snyder's Justice League is where Justice League's full potential got to be explored for the most part. A lot more development given to a lot of the characters, where a lot of them feel more fleshed out and interesting. Cyborg is a big example of that, where he has a lot to do. He has a very interesting arc. He's a sympathetic character. And Cyborg's father, of all people, actually has a really big role in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which could seem a bit random, but he's actually a really good supporting character, and he's very sympathetic too. And he actually adds a lot. And that felt surprising because he's barely in the theatrical cut, but he's, I think, the most important supporting character in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and the most important character in the film aside from the main heroes and the main villain Steppenwolf. So that was pretty interesting. I actually like Cyborg's dad quite a bit. I feel like Batman is better for the most part in the Zack Snyder's Justice League. Felt like he was more confident, had more of a sense of what he was doing, and more of a charm to him in it. I feel like there was more moments of fleshing out Aquaman, more moments where the Flash gets to be really cool and helpful, where Flash is funny in the theatrical cut, but it's in Zack Snyder's Justice League where the character really gets to feel like a very useful, capable superhero. Um, and there's lots of really cool stuff that's not in the theatrical cut. Like, I think the Dark Side not being in the theatrical cut is a pretty big deal, considering Steppenwolf being the main villain, and Steppenwolf's connection to Dark Side, uh, and I think the reason that Steppenwolf was picked to be the main villain was to eventually build up to Darkseid. And Darkseid isn't in Zack Snyder's Justice League that much, but what he does get to do is very cool. He has a very powerful, intimidating presence. And Steppenwolf himself is a more fleshed out character, where it feels very weird where his motivation isn't explored in the theatrical cut, but is explored in the longer version, and the main villain's motivation, that's pretty important to the plot of a film, so it feels very weird that it wasn't explored in the theatrical cut. So he's able to have somewhat of an emotional backstory where he's a very evil character, but Darkseid seems to be even eviler, so there's just a tiny bit of nuance to Steppenwolf that helps him be a little more of a complex character. And Desaad shows up for a little bit, he has a cool presence, and there's quite a bit of surprising scenes, a lot of really good action scenes. It's a pretty incredible looking film, and it's a very, very long film, and it's hard to know for sure, but I think that it's either the longest superhero film or is one of the longest. And 4 hours is longer than I would want a film to be. But I do understand because of the big weight for Zack Snyder's Justice League and stuff. It's a very, I feel like, complicated situation with the Justice League film. So I guess if you have the full context, understand the full story, I guess it makes sense for it to be 4 hours. I do think the theatrical cut is a little too short. Well, I think that Zack Snyder's Justice League is longer than it should be. Um, but thankfully, a lot of the stuff added to it is really good. And there's some fun appearances and fun cameos and stuff. There are points where Batman is acting a little more intense. There is a character that shows up towards the end of the film, and in what I think is a dream sequence in Batman that has an interaction with the character. And Batman wasn't really acting what I would expect Batman to act like in the scene, but I think it's a dream sequence, so I guess it makes sense in context. There are certain moments where the characters don't act exactly how I'd want them to, but not in a way that ruins the film for me. I do think it's a very good film. Um, that feels, despite feeling more intense in the theatrical cut, it does feel a little more genuine when it comes to the heart and the characters caring about each other and important stuff like Cyborg and his father and the conflicts that they have, but they clearly care about each other, and there's lots of good stuff in it. So I do think that Zack Snyder's Justice League is a very good film. And despite the super long length and a few moments that I question, I do think that it is a really good superhero film.